So Captain America: Brave New World is bad. And you've probably heard all the reasons why it's bad. The editing, the reshoots, it looks pretty bad. The CGI is lame. Like the action is kind of weird and stiff at some points. And like Sam has these weird power sets now. The villain's terrible. It doesn't really make much sense. The Red Hulk only like shows up in the last 5 minutes of the movie. The side characters are boring. Like, there's a bunch of reasons why Captain America: Brave New World is bad. You've probably heard it all before, like the marketing lies and all this stuff, and no one cares about Betty and all these things. But I want to talk about like just like the simple fundamentals of characterization. Like characterization is something that I think the MCU used to be really good at. At least with Tony Stark, with Cap, eventually with Thor, with people like Rocket Raccoon, Star-Lord, Gamora. We had a cinematic universe filled with characters with unique and diverse and specific characterizations. But when it comes to the characterization of these two leads in the movie, Sam Wilson and Thunderbolt Ross, like it is just incredibly lacking. Like characterization is basically it's like the sum of character traits, motivations, personalities. And here the characterization is just incredibly bad. Let's start with Thunderbolt Ross. Like this guy, he was obviously villain general guy who has been in Incredible Hulk. He was in Black Widow. He was in Civil War. Basically, he's been kind of like a soft political antagonist for the Avengers. Obviously, doing something that like the heroes don't want. He's getting in the way because of political stuff, government, whatever. Sure. Now he's the president here. And we spend most of this movie talking about how Thunderbolt Ross sucks as a guy. A lot of people don't like him as a politician, now even a president, right? But he's trying to be better and he's becoming better. And here's the problem. We don't know actually any of the things that he's doing to try to get better. We don't know why he tried to get better. We don't know what his stances are on anything. And I think the way that this role is written for him, you are going to put in whatever politician that you don't like in and like kind of lump in those character traits onto Thunderbolt Ross, which I think in some movies, like there's a version of the story that where that makes sense and that works really well. I think here of the two, like Thunderbolt Ross does not need to be as fully defined as Sam Wilson. I think it's smart if Marvel wants President Ross to kind of be this broad strokes of a politician that we kind of understand in our world today, like according to current events, and then have Sam Wilson react to that. But I think there's no way that they would have made that kind of movie because that's way too bold and that would just warrant way too much backlash. So that was never going to happen. But in this movie, President Ross's whole campaign is surrounded around the idea of doing it together. And that should have been the setup for the movie, where Sam Wilson, Thunderbolt Ross, they are working together, even if they don't have goals that are necessarily aligned, but they're also not opposed, right? So it should be like this tense thing of kind of grappling for control of the wheel, like how they both go into the brave new world together, right? But they're only really together working for like about 10 minutes of the movie. And as soon as that assassination attempt happens, like 12 minutes into the movie, then it's all over and like Sam is going rogue the entire time. I think the most interesting part about a Captain America who works for the government is obviously the tensions of I'm not in charge, I don't have the final say, I'm not fully for freedom. And I think that this movie touches on it a little bit in the beginning. Like Sam Wilson is talking to Isaiah Bradley in the beginning of the movie, talking about how he's going to be working with President Ross and how he doesn't even really like President Ross, but he wants to stand by him to help unify this new world that's fractured, and he try to give people hope. And I think that's a good setup. But 15 minutes later, after the assassination attempt of Ross, where Ross tells like Sam, like you can't go and try to bring Isaiah Bradley back in because you're too close to the situation. I don't know if I can trust you. Like Sam does a full 180. He's just like, I'm not going to work with you anymore. We're not going to do this together. I'm just going to do my own thing. And I think that's frustrating because you let go of the most interesting, compelling conflict and tension in the movie. Like this is the struggle of the movie. It's akin to Spider-Man having to choose responsibility over his personal life. It's akin to Steve taking the easy route or sticking up for what he believes in. It's like T'Challa choosing to keep tradition and do everything the way it always has been as an isolationist country, or to act on what he sees as right. Like this movie could have talked about togetherness and unity, or the illusion of togetherness and unity, and doing the right thing and freedom and making calls, but they drop it immediately just to let Sam go on his own thing. And I'm not saying that that's wrong. Like that could have been the ending answer. That could have been the takeaway at the end, that Sam can't trust the government, or that Captain America is better off not working with the government. I think that's maybe a bleak basic takeaway, but that could have been thought. But at the end of the movie, we don't really have the movie saying anything about how superheroes and the government should work together. We have no stance on what togetherness should look like. We don't have a sense of what Brave New World should be. In Bucky's cameo, he says that Steve gave the people inspiration, but Sam, he gives them someone to aspire to be. Like before, Captain America as Steve was an inspiration, a hope, but Sam is someone that you could actually be, that you could become like, that you could strive to be like. Because he's more human, he's more approachable than Steve, because Steve was maybe a little bit too perfect. And I like that kind of idea, that sentiment. But that sentiment is not shown in the movie at all. And even with the power sets, like Sam Wilson is turned into this Wakandan warrior guy who can shoot purple energy and flies, and he's doing this all these acrobatic stuff, and he's surfing on missiles and all this thing. He has Red Wing to do half of the stuff for him. Like the power set doesn't match with maybe what they're trying to go for. And I think as I was writing the script for this video, it was hard for me to find things to talk about that weren't hypotheticals, because there was basically no characterization into what Sam believed or what his ideals were for togetherness or what Captain America should be or what hope should be or what the nation needs. And I think that's the problem. There's just a lack of characterization in this movie. And it makes the political thriller a boring thriller because we don't see two different ideologies at play. We're not thinking about something. We're not wondering. We're not pondering. We're not wrestling and grappling with any ideas. And at the end of the movie, we end with Joaquin Torres on this bed saying like, oh, when I grew up, I didn't want to be like this superhero. I don't want to be like this superhero. I wanted to be like you, Sam Wilson, because you're a good guy or whatever. And like, that's cool and ever, but like, why would anyone ever want to be Sam Wilson in this universe? We have no idea why. Like, what makes Sam such a good person? I don't know. I ain't seen that. It was very clear for Steve. He had that moment where he jumped on that grenade early on in the first Avenger, and we could tell, like, man, we knew who this guy was. Sam Wilson, not so much. And in his first standalone movie, his solo movie, if you don't come away with a strong characterization for this guy, the leader of the Avengers, and now it seems like he's going to be assembling a new Avengers, like, I have no hope for him being a good leader. I have no real desire to see him more in a leadership position or as Captain America. I don't feel like I have a reason to root for him because I don't know anything about him. And I feel like that's obviously a problem. So, I don't know, Captain America Brave New World, it had some cool ideas. It had a lot of areas where it could have gone to be bold. It could have been brave. But of course, reshoots, editing, I don't even really know who to blame here, but it's just a mess and it's not good. 2025 off to a bad start for Marvel, but I hope that Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four are good. Like in the trailers, it seems like they have like a take. They have characterizations. Like Thunderbolts, they're going to be, these guys who have no meaning in life trying to find meaning again, and like Fantastic Four, they're a family. We're going to hope for something more than that. I don't know when we'll see Anthony Mackie's Cap next. Probably in Doomsday. So like, it's hard for me to believe that Doomsday is going to be good because of our heroes, our main characters, and they have to introduce like Doctor Doom and everything. Like, it just feels like it's going to be like guys that we don't care about fighting against this weird RDJ Doom thing, and I don't know, not looking great.